Hi, all. Welcome to yet another Koot Podcast Series where we discuss global SaaS adoption trends, global tech adoption trends with global industry leaders. And today we have a very special guest with us, Sharanya Kandaswamy, who is the Senior Project Manager at FNF Fidelity National Financial India GCC. I met Sharanya in one of the GCC events, and her career journey really caught my attention, and that's why we are here. She leads a multidisciplinary team, at FNF. Let it be the analysts or the developers or the testers. So, looking forward to learn a lot from her. So, let's welcome Sharanya. Hi, Sharanya. Thank you so much for taking out time for us. Really looking forward to this podcast, Sharanya.
Hi, Nageshwari, and thank you for having me here. I'm super excited, looking forward to the session. I'm sure we are going to discuss about some wonderful things.
Absolutely, Sharanya. So let's start with your career journey. I know I've kind of, know your career journey, going back
Yeah.
to that event, but would like to, rehear from you and for the audience, Sharanya.
All right. So I have tried out multiple things. I'm just
Yeah.
calling it out ahead of time. So I started my journey as a developer uh,
Yes.
with Wipro,
Hmm.
and from then within Wipro itself, post a couple of years, I moved into the testing
Hmm.
industry, right? And since then, it's been mostly QA. To be very honest, that's very close to my heart. I strongly believe that I'm a tester at heart, right?
Oh, wonderful.
That's very close to my heart. So
Sure.
I've spent quite a bit of my career, close to a decade, in the software testing industry,
Yeah.
and uh, a few years back, with all this AI coming up,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I made a conscious decision to try
Hmm.
out a new domain, move into this,
Hmm.
and to make that shift. It was a
Hmm.
conscious decision on my part, and I ramped up with whatever skill sets that was required. And then, fortunately, my organization as well gave me the opportunity. And
Yeah.
with that, now I think for the past 3.5 years, I've been managing Gen AI projects at FNFI.
Wonderful. What are the different projects? I heard that it is more related to the documentation, Sharon.
Right. So ours is predominantly across document processing, entity extractions.
Okay.
But having said that, right, that's been the case earlier. But now we've been trying out multiple things.
Okay.
So the organization has been trying out opportunities across various teams, not just
Hmm.
document processing, but it is one of the key things that we do.
Okay. And which are the different, because, I said it's a multidisciplinary. So how is the team structure, Sharanya?
So different teams have different combinations of the people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you look at my patch, we have data scientists, we have data analysts, uh,
Hmm.
we have .NET developers, we have
Hmm.
testers, and we also have labeling teams, right?
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
annotators that we call. So we
Yeah.
have whole spectrum of these people, and it varies with each team, right?
Yeah.
And different teams have different people depending on the need of the project, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Sharanya.
But more or
Now,
less it's a combination of these kind of rules.
absolutely. Now, one question related to the talent, because AI talent is, trending. So, how do you groom, and what is your team building mantra? And what are the different aspects that a leader should keep in mind to retain the AI talent, Sharanya?
All right. I think I called this out in that previous meeting where we met as well, right? This is very
Absolutely.
close to my heart because 90% of my work, right, is with people, right?
Hmm.
So if I strongly believe that an organization is only as good as its people, right?
Hmm.
So it's very important for us as leaders to uh, put a lot of emphasis in people development,
Yeah.
right? And that automatically takes care of retention and attrition issues, I would say. And when you talk about AI talent, right, there's some specific things that I want to call out. So you will see that they differ slightly,
Yeah.
right, in the sense that uh, this is a niche crowd, right? They have
Yeah.
niche skill sets in the current market space. So
Correct.
the competition that is there,
Hmm.
right, or the urge to constantly keep changing is going to be pretty high with this crowd, right?
Absolutely.
So as an organization or as a leader, right, what is it that we can do to retain people, right, at
Hmm.
the same time add value to them, right? So I believe the way to do that is you need to give them learning opportunities, right, in the sense
Okay.
that uh, from my experience, okay, what I'm trying to say is people very rarely leave for just the compensation.
Okay.
It's
That's what I was about to ask. Is it
usually
compensation or versus the problem solving?
right.
Sure.
That comes out as the forefront statement, but when
Okay.
you dig deep, right, you will see that the trigger would have been something else. It would
Okay.
have been a lack of space to be creative or innovative,
Hmm.
a
Okay.
lack of space to take up additional responsibilities, or there could be reasons such as not being able to move across teams or move across
Hmm.
projects, try
Yeah.
out different things, right? Being locked in one specific area.
Monotonous. Yeah.
So I personally believe that the best way for us to retain people is to give them that opportunity and constantly give them those challenges that they are looking for, because this crowd, specifically the AI talent, right, they're
Yeah.
constantly looking at uh, looking for that intellectual challenge, right? That
Okay.
somebody needs to
Hmm.
challenge their curiosity. So
Got it.
if your learning opportunities are stagnant, right,
Okay.
I think that's where you start losing the interest from people. So if you're able to do that along
Hmm.
with a good workplace and good leadership, I think that goes a long way in helping people to stay back.
Wow. But see, most of the GCCs, they are reinventing always, and they are re-engineering always. See, so I mean, yeah, I mean that fits perfectly. That that they have to go back and understand the business outcomes, uh, and in alignment with the business outcomes, they have to identify where is the gap and where the innovation again needs to happen, the experimentation. So I think the team needs to get involved with the business aspects also, where there is more scope of experimentation, Sharanya, if I.
And adding to that, right? See, you will see that change in the way GCCs operate now. Earlier, you would have seen that
Yeah.
shadow delivery concept, right, where
Yeah.
we just act as a support team or an enabling team.
Just
That
audit it.
no, correct. Right? We are more like I think recently I heard this term HQ twins, right?
Mm, mm.
We are considered as twins of HQ, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Right? So we are part of the product development. We are part of the
Absolutely.
creating process instead of just delivering. And again, that ties to the talent, because they need to
Absolutely.
have that feeling of they're part of that creation, right? That goes a long way in motivating people.
No, no, very true, Sharanya, because I can share one more example from Renault Nissan. We spoke to Eva James, who is the kind of, leader. You know her by any chance?
No.
She's based out of Chennai. And she told about Renault. So there is one nomenclature here, one Renault Nissan. It is
Ah,
one.
right, right.
And the kind of project she explained to us, the digital twin, whatever, the vehicles that you're seeing on the road is actually done it here. And the second example is Nokia. I think Manyata is becoming the the hub of the largest patent producer
True.
in Nokia. So yeah, of course, I totally agree with you, Sharanya. Sure. Now moving on, having said that, Sharanya, slightly shifting the gears,
Mhm.
many, there are hundreds of AI pilots, Sharanya. It is kind of becoming a POC graveyard, unfortunately. But according to you, where is the gap? Why are some of the AI projects successful at, able to go to the enterprise scale, and why some of them are failing, Sharanya?
Okay. Uh, Before I get to that question, right, one thing that
Sure.
I want to just call out is having a lot of POCs is not really a bad thing, at least in my opinion, especially in this AI stream, right? Because
Yeah.
only with more and more R&D, you actually identify the diamonds that can be shaped and
Okay. Yeah.
brought to glitter, right? So But having said that, I do get what you're saying. I think recently there was a study as well, right, where 95% of the projects that are built uh,
Yeah.
don't get operationalized.
Yeah.
So that's a alarming number, to
Alarming
be
number. Yeah.
honest. Right. So in my experience, from what I have seen, right, I believe that a project to be truly scalable at an enterprise level,
Yeah.
it needs to have certain things. Like the first and foremost, right, it needs to tie or align with an actual business value, as in
Mm.
it
Mm.
should be solving a real world business
Mm.
problem. That's
Okay.
like the first thing, right? I
Okay.
mean, innovating for the sake of technology is good. I mean, that's how you
Mm.
learn the technology, but
Mm.
can it be scaled up? No, it
Mm.
cannot, right? So it has to solve a real world business problem. That's first and foremost. And the second thing, in my opinion, is the data that is underlying for
Mm.
the solution, right? It
Yeah.
has to be good. I mean, if your data is messy and if your
Yeah.
data is not clean, then building a AI solution on top of it might not really yield good results that can make it,
Mm.
a sustainable solution at an enterprise level. So the quality of data, the data foundation
Mm.
has to
Mm.
be really good. And
No. Yeah.
the third thing,
Yeah.
which I think is personally, I think is the most important, is that even if you have these two things, right?
Yeah.
If if the if the solution is just a standalone solution, it's
Mm.
not really going to add value. The solution that you build in, right, it has
Yeah.
to be built in such a way that you can integrate it with your downstream, upstream systems.
Mm. Mm.
You add it to the existing ecosystem, right, existing
Yeah.
workflows and process. That's the only way that the solution can be used across the entire
Yeah.
workflow, and that's when it becomes an enterprise scale
Got
project.
it.
So
Got it, Sharon. No, no, totally with you. And the business aspect which you mentioned is so true because that is something which is evolving roles even in HR, like HRBP roles.
correct.
In every sector of the organization, there is an alignment with the business outcome. They are trying to measure the everyday processes with the ROIs.
Right.
Sharanya.
It has to start with the right problem statement. I mean, uh, the genesis of a solution has to be from a problem statement instead of
Hmm.
just wanting to innovate or wanting to
Yeah.
be creative. It has to start with a problem statement. I think that's the right thing to say here.
Absolutely. Now, Sharanya, when it comes to, let's say you're coming up with a new capability, a new demand of the new capability or something, and let's say in FNF, right? Now this is the question, especially for the startup audience out there. So, which are the non-negotiable things, which comes to your mind that before you go for a buy versus build, uh, decision? And if at all you're going with the buy decision, then what are the different internal versus external factors which is going to drive this initiation, Sharanya?
This is a tough one, honestly. And this is, yeah, like you said, it's a very startup oriented question, right?
Yeah.
And I would say it's a strategic decision, right? Uh,
Okay.
and okay, let me see how best I can put it. So build versus buy, right? So typically, how I would look at it is that if the capability that we're talking about, right,
Yeah.
right between buy or a build, if it is something that is core to our delivery, to our organization, right,
Hmm.
something that's going to set us apart from our competitors, right,
Yeah.
then you have to build it, right, because that's the only way that you maintain the secret sauce, right? That's the only
Okay.
way that you maintain the competitive edge. So
Absolutely.
that goes without saying, right? But at what point do you decide to buy, right? then
Hmm.
then that comes at a point where you're talking about something that's readily available in the market,
Yes.
right? Easily available,
Yeah.
and it's not so unique, right? And something that you can choose to not build and put your efforts on something else, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that those are the times that I would really opt to buy such a
Hmm.
capability. And when I choose to do that, right,
Yes.
factors that would probably play a role is the cost, right? I think that would be the first and foremost, right? Is it cost
Okay.
effective? And
Sure.
since we are dealing with enterprise, right, security and privacy is very important. So when you're buying something, you need to make sure that
Hmm.
standing and it is satisfying the governance rules that are set in within an
Absolutely.
organization.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
all those things play a key role in.
And who are the key decision makers here, Sharanya? Is it still that we're dependent on the HQs, or you can always influence them? You act as an influencer, and how does the ball flows? How many critical stakeholders are there, and how long it might take to onboard a product, Sharanya?
So this is something that, like you said, right, it is not a one team decision, right?
Yeah,
Typically, when we are talking about large scale capabilities that we are
yeah,
buying or buying, there's a lot of people involved, right? From
yeah.
top level management, depending on the what to say, the criticality of the product that we are buying, right? Say for example, it's
Urgency, I think.
right,
Yeah.
urgency
Hmm.
and the scale, right? Like if you're talking about a capability that is going to be used by uh,
Hmm.
many people, right, across
Yeah.
the organization. For example, say a cloud vendor, right, moving
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
Azure to AWS or from AWS to
Yeah.
Google, right? Those kind of decisions, you have to involve top level leadership, right? They are involved. And I wouldn't say that it is completely decided by the HQ, as in the,
Okay.
but there's always this partnership that goes on between the GCC and the HQ, right?
Yes, you.
That's what
Okay.
I was trying to say earlier as well, that we have scaled up. We
Yeah.
are we are in a point where we are able to offer
Hmm.
data driven
Hmm.
decisions,
Hmm.
right? Or we're able to support our decisions with data and
Got
give our opinions that
it.
add
Opinion.
value, right? So it's a
Sure.
collective decision, in my opinion.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Sharanya. Now we have come to the second last question of our podcast. Going back to the journey, I would, if you don't mind sharing one story about which in your life which really tested your resilience, because I keep hearing this from every leaders out there that is one quality that you should have is the resilience, let it be technology or your personal life. So, one story that you could share with us, Sharon.
Right. Okay. So I think for me, right, personally, the biggest challenge has been the transitions that I've been doing, right? So,
Okay.
uh, and I think this is relatable to a lot of people, because considering that AI industry in itself is new,
Yeah.
right? If you take a 15-year experienced or a 20-year experienced resource, they definitely would have transitioned from a different domain or a different expertise to AI, right?
Right.
So when you make that transition, uh, there's a lot of factors and challenges that you face, right? Like
Yeah.
um, the way you normally deliver a project is very different from the way you deliver an AI project, right? And those are the times, like for me, when I initially transitioned from testing into this AI world, it took
Yeah.
me some time. It was to be very honest, it took me some time to understand that, okay, the way we've been doing certain things
Yeah.
cannot be the way that we do it here, right? It has to
Okay.
change. So
Okay.
that bit was a tough period for me to adopt to. And
Okay.
that was something that, not just for me, right? I mean, uh, this the way in which AI projects are built is a little different from your regular projects. So
Hmm.
making your stakeholders understand that as
Yeah.
well, challenges
Hmm.
that are there, that
Hmm.
also was a difficult phase, right? But over time, when you communicate with transparency and you put forth your challenges across
Hmm.
openly, right, and bring in that collaborative space where you can discuss and brainstorm, uh,
Yeah.
that has helped me a lot to. But I honestly, that transition period was a little difficult for me.
Okay.
So I would say that that has been one of the phases where I had to dig deep and find that resilience to stick to what
Okay.
I wanted to do.
Wonderful. No, I'm glad that you stick to your, you were aware of the situation and you face the situation rather than going away from it. Sure, Sharanya, thank you so much for taking out time and sharing wonderful insight. It was really fun. Looking forward to be in touch with you, Sharanya, and keep inviting you in more such events, online and offline, kind of workshops. So yes, Sharanya, thanks again, Sharanya.
Thank you, Nageshwari. And I truly enjoyed the session as well. Very insightful questions.
Oh yes,
Thank you.
thanks, Sharanya.